was your first big commercial?
I kind of booked 4 at like the same time almost, and then and it was like very like lucky. I think my first one was Bing. It was in one of those like big chaotic Bing commercials, and then I booked Snickers, which I found out about while I was like shooting that, or no, I was doing Jack in the Box, Snickers, and there was one more Sierra Mist that never aired, but the Snickers one was like the big one because it was Joe Pesci and Don Rickles, so that was very cool.
Weird, I don't remember you in that.
I mean, it's me, but whatever.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so that was very cool. And then I had my first pilot season right around that time, and that's when I booked Are You There, Chelsea, the Chelsea Handler sitcom on NBC.
The Manager or Measures?
That was through The Manager.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So it all just sort of came crashing at you.
Yeah, it kind of was quick. Like that was all within like probably like 6 months or something like that.
Okay, just for the people listening that are working their way or trying to do it, how many auditions did you go to in this time that you failed miserably?
Oh my God. I mean, well, first of all, everything up until that point, which was a good amount, I had not booked. So that was a lot. And then, I mean, once I had the commercial agent, I mean, I auditioned for a billion commercials.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like everyone I would just get it, but it just so happened that in that window I booked a bunch. But like,
when it rains, it pours.
I think that happens for a lot of people.
You get some confidence.
Totally.
They see it on your resume. Blah blah blah.
Yeah,
blah.
it all helps. But I definitely had. I've auditioned for a million commercials, and I've auditioned for a million things still to this day that I don't. It's funny because it looks like when you're working, it feels like it's great. It feels great, and I think to other people it looks like, oh, it's just happening or whatever. But you are still auditioning for a million things and not getting them. So I don't know. I mean, that just never stops. But with the pilot season thing, it was a total fluke because it was one of my first auditions. One of my first real TV auditions was that pilot season, and that Chelsea audition was, I think, maybe my first or second audition for pilot season, and I booked it.
That's
awesome.
So
and it got made and put on, which was like absurd.
Yeah.
So I was definitely spoiled with that, but yeah, I mean, just a fluke.
Does that help? Sort of like once you get one, do people take notice right away?
I think it helps. And I think what you said about confidence is true too, that it's like you have that inner confidence then to be like, oh, I can do this, or this isn't that hard or whatever. Whereas before you might be more intimidated.
Yeah.
And that might show or whatever. But the role was so perfect for me, and that's why it really worked, because I mean, it was just the kind of role that I could do really well. And I don't think that would have been true necessarily of every other pilot I would have been going out for.
Yeah.
So it was just like kind of a lucky, it was like a big character, which was lucky because I was coming from like the improv background where like that was what I was doing.
Right.
I've learned to like be more subtle over time, but like at the time that was like perfect for what I was doing.
Yeah, because I feel like I'm in that same boat. Like I feel like I get a lot of notes of being too big just because I'm used to stage.
It's so common, yeah.
Right. You mentioned on another podcast how I believe how you haven't really taken acting classes, right?
Yeah, no.
And you've just sort of used your stage performance to translate.
Yeah, and it is one of those. I took like I took a cold reading class in Chicago that was very beneficial at the acting studio. And I did one like on-camera commercial class there and here, but that's very specific. It's not really like acting necessarily so much as like technique for like commercial auditioning, but I did find it very helpful. And that was out here. It was Killian's workshop, which I would recommend because I think that was around the time when I started booking a lot, and I'm sure it's related. But write that down. Killian's workshop. But truly, and so many
Killian's
people,
Irish Red.
So many people have said that they booked after taking this class, and it is really helpful because you see yourself on camera and you can see what you're doing, and he gives you notes, and you're like, oh yeah, I should definitely never do that again, or whatever. Like you can kind of see like, oh, my face does that when I don't think about what my face is doing or whatever. Right. So, but yeah, in terms of acting, like really, improv is my background, and it's been so helpful. I mean, like, especially coming to UCB, and that might have been something I talked about if it was the same one that you listened to on Nerdist or whatever. I talked about this, but the style at UCB was so helpful for me because at first I was very kind of turned off because it was all like being yourself and like grounded, like, more like talking.
The way you're motioning is not grounded though, which is funny.
Grounded,
like,
people. Well, you know what I mean. That's just me, unfortunately. But like, being like very like, hey, Mike, what are you doing, Mike? And it's like, why the fuck are you saying my real name? Like, it would throw me off. And so
versus wacky character.
Yeah,
types.
and using my real voice. Like I had never spoken on stage in my real voice until I did UCB.
Yeah.
Like literally, I'd been doing improv for at least 5 years by that point.
That's funny because I'm the opposite. Like I hate not talking in my voice.
Yeah.
Like I love doing characters and stuff, but I still talk in my voice.
No, and
that's why I like you.
Yeah, no,
I can't do accents or anything.
It's great. And at IO though, they do care more about like character, and like that's one of the things you learn. So like I started doing that first, and so it was harder for me to shake it.
Yeah.
But then once I did, I liked being able to combine both and do whatever I want.
See, I was a mascot in college.
Oh yeah.
For the University of Minnesota.
What's the character?
Still Goldie the Gopher.
Oh duh! Like I'm supposed to know.
Yeah. Oh, man, I'm so turned off. No, they teach you to be huge. You know what I mean? Even theater, you're supposed to be big to get to the back row. But when you're a costume that consumes all this sort of movement and stuff, you got to be super big and over the top. And I'm still trying to shake that because I feel like everything I do.
It's all rooted in your mascot days.
I went on like a taco audition the other day, and I ate the taco like this, where I went like attacked it like a shark. It's like, whoa, hold it. And that's just like the old mascot bones I'm shaking.
It's hard to get rid of that stuff though, because you're so used to it. I definitely.
But it's so good on like a stage or whatever. But for a camera, it's just not good at all.
Yeah, but you can definitely harness it and hone it to be useful. I mean, like it has helped me so much in terms of like having grounded scenes and emotional scenes. Even though I don't really do emotional things on stage, I'm able to like tap into that from improv somehow. Like that makes sense. Yeah. Like just being in the moment and being real.
I totally agree.
Yeah.